Hello and welcome to another Every Tuesday tutorial. In this week's tutorial, we're celebrating Father's Day in the best way that I know how, with a dad joke and a popsicle layout. So what you see on screen is exactly what we're going to be creating together. The color palette is free as always. Just tap on the link in the video description and you can download and install it. We'll be using my Gouache Lovers brushes for all the illustration elements and the Bumpy ink brush from my Font Lovers brush set. And I'll leave links to both of those brush sets in the video description, but please feel free to use any brushes that you'd like. I'm going to start by creating a brand new canvas that's 1500 pixels by 1500 pixels at 300 dpi. I work in the display P3 color profile, but if you're on an older iPad and don't have access to that, then the default sRGB color profile is perfectly fine. Okay, I've got my brand new canvas, and the first thing we're going to do is set a background color. So come into your layers, tap on background color, and it's going to be this very first color on the top row. And the next thing we're going to do is sketch out our popsicle. That way we can duplicate it and use it for both of our popsicles. And I want to make my popsicle pretty symmetrical, so I'm going to utilize the symmetry settings in Procreate to make that process a little quicker and a little more exact. On this first layer, I'm going to switch to black for my sketch layer, so just double tap where black is. And I'm going to grab the sketching pencil brush from the Gouache Lovers set to sketch it in. And in order to get those symmetry settings, you want to tap on the wrench icon, hit Canvas, toggle on Drawing Guide, and then hit Edit Drawing Guide. Down here, there's symmetry, so just tap on that, and the default settings are perfectly fine. They are vertical with assisted drawing turned on. And I'm going to increase the opacity and the thickness of this line so you can see it better on screen, and then hit Done. So now I'm just going to sketch out what this popsicle looks like, and then we can paint in both of our popsicles. For the popsicle, I'm just going to do like your regular shape that you would normally see. I'm going to make this a little bit wider. So I'm going to start up at the top, come down, and then curve around. I like having my corners be a little curved, and this is the time to make any corrections because it's your sketch. So I'm going to make this a little bit more curved, and then you can erase away any parts that you don't need so you can keep everything really clear, and you can see that it's replicating whatever I do on one side, it's repeating it on the other. Okay, I've got the top part of my popsicle in a pretty good place. I'm going to draw those lines in that comes from the mold. Okay, and then we're just going to add on the popsicle stick at the bottom. I always like zooming out to see if my scale is correct. I think this needed to be a little wider and a little bit longer. Okay, now that I have my popsicle template all ready to go, I can turn off the symmetry settings. You can see it says assisted right here. That just means as long as that is present, it means whatever I draw on one side will be repeated on the other. And I don't need to repeat things anymore because I'm happy with what I have. So I can just tap on the layer thumbnail and toggle off drawing assist by tapping on it. I can also get rid of this guideline because I no longer need it. So just tap on the wrench and then toggle off drawing guide. And now we have our popsicle sketch. So I'm going to label this layer sketch. We're going to take care of our popsicles, and then we can lay everything out exactly the way that we want it to because we'll have all the assets that we need then. For the very first popsicle, I'm going to create a brand new layer, and this is going to be the hero popsicle or the dad popsicle. I put two here, which could be like the father and then the kid. So you can really do as many popsicles as you would like on this layout. But I'm just going to keep it to two right here, and I'm going to show you two different ways. For this first one, we're going to make it an orange popsicle. So I'm going to grab the orange color right here, and I'm going to use my diluted paintbrush out of the Gouache Lovers for this. So it's got that really nice watery texture, so it does look like a popsicle. And I'm just going to paint the entire popsicle in, and I'm using that sketch layer as my guide. And because this is a diluted paintbrush, it has that transparency, so I can still see my sketch layer through it. If it ever gets difficult, like it's getting a little difficult to see those mold lines, I can also just move my drawing layer underneath my sketch layer so I can see things better. The next thing we're going to do is add in some extra color. So I'm going to create a brand new layer right above it, and I'm going to apply a clipping mask. That way these two colors remain in the same exact shape. So I'm going to tap on the layer thumbnail and choose clipping mask, and now whatever I paint on this layer will be locked right into the orange layer. And I'm going to grab my red, and for this one I'm just going to paint a little bit up here. Next, we're going to merge these two colors together by utilizing a smudge brush. So come over to your smudge brush, and I'm going to choose the diluted paintbrush again right here and increase the size up to, I'm coming up to like 60%. It's pretty big. So I'm just going to push, and I'm actually kind of stippling with it too, and I can push the opposite way. So the two colors kind of merge right together, and you can see just like a popsicle, they're like dripping into each other. Okay, once you have your colors merged together, I want to make my red just a little bit more vibrant. So a really easy way to do that is to just duplicate your red layer. So slide it over to the left, choose duplicate, and now we're going to change the blend mode to either overlay or soft light. Overlay is always stronger than soft light. Soft light is basically the overlay look, but half the power of it. So if I tap on the little N over here, I can drag this down to overlay so we can see what that looks like. And if I want it a little bit softer, I can go to soft light. So that's like 50% of that intensity. So the next thing we need to do is add in those dark mold lines into here. And a really, really easy way to do that is just create a brand new layer up at the top. We're going to grab our diluted paintbrush again, and we're going to switch to black. So double tap where black is, and we're going to change the blend mode of this also to overlay. So tap on the N and change it to overlay. And now when we paint in, it's going to look like there's automatically some extra depth applied here. You could definitely paint this with your symmetry settings on. I prefer to have it look a little more unique, so that's why I'm painting all the elements separately. If I turn off the sketch layer, we can get a preview of how things are looking so far. This seems just a little dark to me, so I'm going to change this to soft light, and that feels better. And now we want to add just a little bit of shadow to the edge to show depth, so I'm going to create a brand new layer. I'm going to change this one to soft light, reduce the size of my brush. I'm coming down to like 3%, and I'm just going to follow that same curve and this line all the way down, and you can see how it creates like an instant shadow right there. So we've got depth right away. So I'm going to do the same thing over here. And there we go. And the next thing we're going to do is just add on our stick. So the stick needs to be underneath everything else. So I'm going to create a brand new layer and then just drag it underneath that main popsicle shape. And we're going to grab this tan color, and I'm going to switch my brush to the thick round opaque brush, turn the sketch layer back on, and we're going to draw the stick. I'm going to erase a few of the bits that went outside the lines because I actually want this one to be pretty straight right here. Okay, let's see what that looks like without the sketch layer. And I just want to add a little bit of a shadow where the thickness of the popsicle is overlapping the stick. So I'm going to create a brand new layer right above the stick and create a clipping mask. So tap on the layer thumbnail and choose clipping mask. And I'm just going to use the exact same tan color, but I'm going to change the blend mode to multiply. Tap on the little N, drag it up to multiply, and I'm just going to draw a line like straight across right here. Okay, and we've got our first popsicle all done. So I'm going to group all of these elements together, group them, and I'm going to call this one orange popsicle. All right, so we're going to do the exact same thing or very close to it for the next popsicle. So I'm going to turn this one off, and we're going to utilize our sketch layer again. So turn on the visibility of your sketch layer. I'm going to create a brand new layer. And this time for the base of our popsicle, we're going to use white. So double tap where white is, and we're using the diluted paintbrush once again. Okay, once you have your base done, now we're going to add in two colors instead of one to this one. Create a brand new layer, apply a clipping mask to that brand new layer, and we're going to start with the red on top. So grab your red color again, grab your diluted paint, and just paint a little bit up here. And then on the exact same layer, I'm going to grab my green and just paint a stripe of green at the bottom. This is kind of like a watermelon popsicle. And then we're going to grab our smudge brush with the diluted paint. It's still really large. It's up to 60%. And we're just going to tap inside of here a little bit, and you can see how it's moving both sides. I'm basically just stippling the whole time with this brush instead of pushing it like a regular smudge brush. And that's how I'm getting a better effect that looks more watery and diluted. Okay, I want these colors to just be a little bit more intense, so I'm going to duplicate them the same way we did with the red layer in the last popsicle. And let's see what an overlay looks like and a soft light. I'm going to stick with the soft light again. And now we're just going to put in those mold lines, which once again you want to switch to black, so double tap where the black is. I'm still using the diluted paint brush, reducing my size a bit. Okay, and then we're going to change the blend mode of this to soft light again, create a brand new layer, and this one we're also going to change to soft light, and we're going to do that shadow edge. All right, let's preview that without the sketch layer on to make sure it's looking the way we want it to. And I like how that looks, so the next thing we have to do is add in the stick. So create a brand new layer, drag it underneath that white base popsicle shape, and this will be our stick. So grab the tan color, switch to the thick round opaque brush, paint in the stick. Create a brand new layer, change the blend mode to multiply, tap on the layer thumbnail, choose clipping mask, paint that shadow line straight across. And let's turn off the sketch layer and see how that looks. I'm good with that, so let's group all of our layers together, and I'm just going to call this one watermelon. Okay, we've got our popsicles all ready to go now, so I'm just going to keep these turned off for now, and then we'll come back to them once we have our lettering because I want them to kind of integrate with the lettering. So I'm going to create a brand new layer, label this one lettering. You can also use a font if you would like. Totally up to you how you want to execute the message part. I'm going to grab the darkest blue color and now jump into the font lever set and grab the bumpy ink brush. But once again, feel free to use any brush that you would like. I'm going to write out, "You're the coolest, Pop." Okay, I've got my lettering positioned in the lower half of my layout so I can put in the two popsicles right here and then have some like little water splashes coming off of them. So now that I've got my lettering in here, I'm going to grab both my popsicles. So first let's start with the orange one. And I like making a copy of these because right now these popsicles are nice and large and I can reduce them down and they're going to, for the most part, maintain their crispness. As soon as I scale it down and then try to scale it back up again, I could end up stretching my pixels. So I like keeping a copy of each one of these. So I have one that I can rescale and another one that I can go back to if I messed up the first one. So I'm going to slide this over to the left, hit duplicate, and just turn off that little extra group. So with this one, I can grab it. I'm going to turn it, reduce the size a bit, and position it right in here, kind of above the E, in this little notch that the T created with the L. And I want this one to be bigger than the watermelon one because this is the daddy pop. Okay, and then I'm going to grab the watermelon one. Once again, I'm going to make a duplicate. I'm going to drag that copy way down here so it's out of the way, turn on the one I'm going to use, and rescale it. And this one's going to be in the opposite direction, but we're just smaller. And I'm going to set this one right above the R and the E. Okay, and now we can add in those water splashes just to add a little more energy and a little more focus directly to the message. So I'm going to create a brand new layer and I'm just going to label this one splashes. I'm going to double tap where the white is, so I have true white. I'm going to head back into the gouache lever set, grab the diluted paintbrush, and paint in some splashes. So this one's going to come up. It's just a basic teardrop shape, and you can make it as big or small as you would like. The first two that I usually paint are always in the opposite direction, and then I fill in the middle parts and then the outside with smaller ones. So there's the first few, and then I'm going to put some over here. And I've got 3 on both sides, but I just want to change it up just a little bit so it doesn't look too symmetrical, and add a 4th one in there and see how that feels. So I like that it feels a little bit different on both sides now. And now we could just call this done, but I want to add in a little bit of extra shading just to highlight the very center of our layout and then add some shadow around the outside. And this is a really easy thing to do. It's a nice little trick to have in your back pocket whenever you want something to pop a little bit pun intended, pop a little bit extra in your layout, you can utilize this technique for basically any background that you want to add focus to the center. So the first thing I'm going to do is add a highlight right to the middle, and this part's super easy. I'm going to come to the very bottom because you want it underneath all of your elements. So since these ones are just extras down here, I can just tap on the watermelon group, create a brand new layer right above it. I'm going to navigate to the airbrushing category. So this is a free brush, everyone has this. Go to the soft brush, and I'm actually going to make this kind of small to start with. I'm going to go to 6% and just tap it once. And now we're going to scale it up. And scaling it up will make it nice and soft really quick. It's like adding a Gaussian blur on it without having to add a Gaussian blur. And then you can control how big it gets and where its placement is. Sometimes when you create a Gaussian blur, you don't realize that the blur extends beyond your canvas. And using this technique allows you to make sure that nothing's getting cropped off. So you can position it wherever you want it to go. I'm going to go kind of like, I think right here feels pretty good. This is where I want the main focus to go, but I don't want it to overpower these drops, so I can just reduce the opacity of it. So I'm just going to come down to like 80%, and you can see with it and without it what that looks like. It's like a really fun focal point that's immediate. And then to help it even more, we're going to add some shadow around the outside. So this is also super easy. I'm going to create this right above the highlight layer. So create a brand new layer. I'm going to grab the dark blue, and I still have my airbrush selected, the soft brush. So zoom way out, and I'm just going to freehand a circle. It does not have to be perfect. Just do the best you can. Obviously, this is really not perfect. Okay, once you have that, now we're going to add a Gaussian blur to this. So tap on your magic wand, choose Gaussian blur, layer, and now just scale it way up until you're happy with it. So I like that, but I don't want it to encroach the design as much as it is. Right now you can see it's like really heading into the center, and my highlight is the only thing that's saving it by making it a little bit brighter. So what I like to do is just with your fingers, just pinch out to make it bigger. So those softer areas of that blur are just ending up on the outside. You're not getting the really intense areas that are over here. So once you're happy with how that looks, let's preview with it and without it. So this is with it and without it. Look at how big of a difference that makes. And now if you want it to pop even more, so this is at normal blend mode. I like adding a layer right above it that's either soft light or overlay. So if I drag it to the left, choose duplicate, and then just change this blend mode, you can see you're getting another intensity right here, but I like lightening it up a little bit. So this makes it a lot brighter. So you can do either overlay or soft light, and I think I like soft light better, so I'm going to stick with that. And you can see how it's just getting more saturated with the soft light blend mode by having that duplicate layer. And then you've got your layout and it's all set, and you've got that nice shadow around the outside. You've got a nice focal point, so the viewer's attention is going exactly where you want it to go. So that's how to create a dad joke popsicle Father's Day layout directly in Procreate. Once again, links to everything mentioned in this tutorial are right in the video description, including the free color palette and both of those brush sets. If you enjoyed this tutorial, please hit the like button, subscribe, and don't forget to hit the bell icon so you can be notified of new tutorials just like this one in the future. For more Procreate tutorials and freebies, head on over to my site, every-tuesday.com. You can also find me over on Instagram. My handle is everytuesday. If you try this out and post it there, I would love it if you tag me. Thanks so much for watching, and I will see you next week.